Right, Richie.
I put it on the table at the back with your mouse. Okay?
Yeah. So I'm looking at Lancer and Woolly, yes?
Yeah.
Do you want me to introduce Karen as well? What are you doing now? It's basically, hello, this is Karen Dusgate.
I think it'd be great if you. Why don't you do it? Because you know Karen. To be a friendly voice, you know.
Yeah.
Why don't you do it? That'd be great. Yeah, and you can. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they've had. I've written them for quite a long time.
No problem.
Can you flip that thing open?
Yeah.
We're live on the internet. Bloody.
I just sound like a
This is not super great because I can't see the controls here on that side.
When you set them up, you mean 2 units without needing to do anything? Yeah.
It's cool.
Oh, they want the and they're not worried about the Are they? They got a and does it fit? I mean, it fits in the front. It's about 3 Right. Good. Okay. Okay, but that's doing. I mean, I think I need to have a conversation with you. It's because it's a free football shop, so that's technically free and it can be used. And also they may so you know, Ian's going to definitely all about maybe or the and I don't, you know, I don't say I think that's with there's just to find out you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't have a preference, to be honest. I think this one is more as long as there's issues with it. I would suggest what you're saying, more I think about it, probably just I think it's to lose that
Is it okay?
I think so.
Was James's on his laptop or on a?
He has a stick with it on. Yeah.
I can only stay here till. If you're in the office and it's in doubt, it might should know it doesn't.
Hello, 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 hello.
Is it?
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Well, to be honest, whether the rules not that an issue, but they should be and etc. I've just been working in
Hello? Hello? Hello?
on a little basis, I go and talk to Mark White around Rachel was. Yeah. Mark will know the patch. I'm not sure when the things like but you're right. You're right. And it's probably Mark as well. No, it shouldn't be. The other person you might want to touch base with, you know, time. It's probably worth it. All right. I'm going to stay on to
Sorry. No. Yeah. We're just trying to connect somebody in. Other key.
Well, the thing is, I came from a public organisation that's now a charity, and the thing is, very different from mine, which
There's two more. How are we doing?
She thinks she's in, but I can't see her. I wonder if she clicked the link from yesterday.
Hi, hello, it's Karen.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Carol.
Can you hear me, Karen?
I can, yes.
Fabulous.
Brilliant. We're in. Let's find you. Yes, looking good. Got video. Can you see us? There's Carol. That's me. Okay. So, yeah, Richie, can you gather crowds and get ready? Yeah, we're good to go. Right, we're just going to gather the crowds back from their tea break. As you can see, they're all still milling about. And then Carol's going to introduce you, and I'll put you up on the big screen and mute us, and then we're good to go.
Okay.
Super. We might need to up the volume a bit.
Hello, hello, hello. Michelle.
Yeah.
Hello, Michelle. Nice to meet you. No.
Hey. You need to yeah, are you okay from here?
I am.
Right.
Okay, everyone, we can
So are you
Okay, everybody. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Carol here, who you'll hear a lot more from this afternoon. But Carol's going to introduce Karen in this next session. So thank you so much.
Okay, everyone. I'm really pleased to introduce Karen Dusgate. Karen is the CEO of Merthyr Housing Association, Merthyr Tydfil Housing Association, and she's going to talk us through a Merthyr Tydfil Housing Association-led project which is taking the old town hall, derelict old town hall in Merthyr, and transforming it into a cultural centre. Over to Karen.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fabulous. This is my first time doing a web link, so I hope it works well. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your learning event, and I hope that the contribution I make will help you a little bit at least. Also, thank you to Carol for describing our project as still evolving in the way in which she put it to you, because it very much is still something that is not finished. If you can hear the funny noise in the background, the bin men have just arrived outside, so apologies for the squeaking. So what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about some of the challenges around arts and regeneration and the different languages that are used, and how that presented challenges for us and may do for you, but what I think might help you moving forward. A little bit of the work we did around citizen and community engagement, and then some of the challenges about just doing the project and delivering it. So I hope this is okay, and that you've got opportunities to ask me loads of questions afterwards. So the Old Town Hall is a building that was owned by the council. They left there in 1989 to move into a modern building, and the property was sold into private hands. It became a nightclub for about 10 years. Their license wasn't renewed, and so it changed hands a number of times, always remaining in the private sector, with people working really hard to try and find a new use for it. But because of the level of work that was involved in restoring it and the design of the building, that was always presenting them with quite a few challenges. There's a lot of circulation space, and when you look at the size of the building in relation to the lettable floor area, it's very difficult if you're relying on any level of private finance to achieve a return on capital employed. But the Welsh Government and the local council were determined that as a key building in the centre of the town, something needed to happen, something quite drastic to give it a new life. And so timing was with the Heads of the Valleys programme, which had prioritised town centres and working across the different towns in the Heads of the Valleys, identifying key buildings in each of those and bringing together partnerships that would be able to deliver regeneration, but help to act as a catalyst for the wider regeneration in the town centre. And that's when Merthyr Tydfil's Old Town Hall was identified. Now, the lead for bringing everybody together back in 2010 was taken by Welsh Government and the Heads of the Valleys team. They had identified reports that had been developed by the University of Glamorgan and the Arts Council for Wales, identifying the need for some form of an arts centre in Merthyr Tydfil, and some feasibility work had been done around that. But it was looking at something that was brand new and requiring more than double the amount of money that has gone into the refurbishment of the building that we've just delivered. So identifying that as a potential option, they were engaging with housing associations across the Heads of the Valleys, and I know that there's a couple of housing associations represented at your event today, to see if the housing associations would be able to help act as a vehicle to project manage the physical refurbishment, but also look at other partners that might be able to come to the table to do the running of the building moving forward. So thinking back to the Arts Council and University of Glamorgan report and the demand and identified need for an arts facility in Merthyr Tydfil, the Heads of the Valleys team approached Chapter in Cardiff and said, would you be willing to work on a partnership to provide some sort of a facility with a partner, Merthyr Tydfil Housing Association? And so in 2010, a dialogue started that included the local authority, Welsh Government, the Housing Association and Chapter, and we began to scope a business plan that would see the restoration of the building and the delivery of an arts and creative heritage centre within the refurbished building. We then needed to work on where the funding was going to come from. Welsh Government said we'll put in £4 million. We didn't know the extent to which that would meet fully or not the total costs. So they provided us with some pump priming funding, and we were able to appoint architects to scope the kind of work that would be needed for the physical redevelopment of the building. That then helped to develop the capital budget, and Chapter took the lead on scoping the revenue budget. And Chapter did some work on community engagement, but using some resources from Welsh Government, we were able to appoint an external consultant who did some more work on community engagement, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes. But the capital and the revenue budgets were put together. We identified that we were going to need £8 million, which would cover the physical construction contract, but also all of the consultants' fees, architects, project managers, M&E consultants, etc., etc. Where then would we apply for money? We were lucky that Welsh Government had pinned their colours to the mast and said, we're going to support this. So our next port of call was to the Heritage Lottery Fund, and we met with them, scoped out an application for a further £2 million, and then started to explore whether or not we could apply for European funding. Now, the timing of this was crucial because Merthyr Tydfil Council had already put a significant application to WEFO for funds, and the most to expedite the application, what was agreed was that the £2 million that was needed for this project would be incorporated within Merthyr Tydfil Council's existing bid. So the business plan that they had prepared was re-scoped, incorporating the business plan that had been developed by the Housing Association and Chapter for the restoration of the Old Town Hall. Cutting a very long story short, we were successful in securing all of that funding, plus an additional £100,000 from CADU. It is very complex. If anybody would like details about what happened and some of the pitfalls in there, I'm more than happy to talk about that, but I want to focus a bit more on the arts and regeneration stuff for you, because that the kind of languages the kind of language that's used by the different sectors, the arts sector and the regeneration sector, did present us challenges when putting our bids together. And I think the best advice that I can give to you if you're working on projects is to look at what is that golden thread that unites those different sectors. And for certain, at the moment, that is around poverty, skills development, education, employment, and community engagement. That is cutting across the heart of everything that is happening within Welsh Government, but certainly something that is it underpins everything that Heritage Lottery are looking at, and also the Welsh European Funding Office. So there's some more information on the Institute of Welsh Affairs website. At the beginning of May, they hosted an event, and I think Andrew's in the audience. I met Andrew at that event, and he might be able to update you a little bit more on some of the conversations that took place. But there are a couple of different papers and some webcasts there that might provide you with a bit more information. But so how does your project reach out and engage with the most excluded and the hardest to reach people in your communities? How do you make something like arts and heritage and culture something that is meaningful and real to them? And that was a real challenge for us. Just checking that you can still see me and hear me, because the screen's gone frozen. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, fabulous, thank you. Okay, so the biggest challenge was, how did we make the community engagement and our project real for people in Merthyr Tydfil, somewhere where there isn't an arts facility at the moment. And using the funding from Welsh Government, we were able to engage a consultant, and Jane did a lot of work really getting out, meeting different organisations, meeting individuals, making lots and lots of presentations, and really talking to and hearing from people. First of all, what did this building mean for them? And that really varied depending on the different generations. Older people will remember having worked there, having got married there, having been involved in work to support the Aberfan disaster, and it held a significance in their lives and the culture of that generation. But for the younger members of the communities, particularly the ones who never frequented it as a nightclub, they've only ever seen a boarded up building, so it was a case of you don't see the wood for the trees, and they just walked past it. So we participated in the Open Doors event, which is a national project that opens the doors of cultural and heritage buildings to the community. And we got young people through the youth forum into that building with cameras. They did a film project, and they started to talk about what might have happened in there. So there are cells, and it was really grim, very, very decrepit and decaying. So it gave them quite an emotional, thought-provoking opportunity to explore the heritage of where they live, and also to talk about what it might become and how it might be somewhere that they would want to go in the future. And at the same time as that was happening, we were asked to explore with Merthyr Tydfil College the possibility of accommodating their media and performing arts courses within the Old Town Hall. And there are pros and cons for this, because again you've got another conflicting demand and maybe different perspectives that they may have on how the building should be designed and used in the future. You know, if you've got a load of students in there, is that likely to mean that people don't think that it's open for the public? And I can confirm that that is a perception, in spite of all of the work we've done in the intervening periods. It's still a hurdle we've got to get over now, moving forward with the project. But the one thing that having the college come in would bring was some financial stability. So it gave them a blue chip tenant with a 10-year rent and service charge income that could support and sustain the business plan moving forward. So how could we scope the other activities that would take place within the building? Am I still there, Esco? Because I've got a little message saying disconnected.
Yeah, we lost you for a minute, so if you can go back about 30 seconds and then we should...
Okay, right, okay. So did you get the bit about the reason why we felt it was important for the college to come in to provide a secure funding basis for the business plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so the challenge then is how we fit the other activities that will take place in the building around the use that the college have or would want to have. And so that involved a lot of dialogue, a lot of revisiting the kind of work that Jane, our consultant, was doing around community engagement, about people's expectations. They wanted to see some heritage interpretation there, some classes, dance classes, meeting spaces, a cafe, maybe an art gallery, performance places. So could the college and the public share a theatre? And developing and shaping the business plan and the income generation around that, and planning the kind of service charges, repairs and maintenance costs and the staffing needed to run it around the college being there and other businesses potentially being based there. So huge amount of discussion and liaison and brokering to come back to what is that golden thread that would link all of those people and those different interests together, that we could then use to demonstrate to our funders from the different backgrounds that they come, that this building and this project can meet the, on the surface of it, conflicting requirements and demands that they present. We managed to convince the funders. We have got the college there as our anchor tenant. We have Stagecoach there as a tenant of the building, but also hiring spaces for their choirs, for the dance classes, and looking to bring more classes in from September. We've got rock school there, we've got streetwise dance there, we have a catering academy who also provide the catering at the Welsh College of Music and Drama, so they've got an office space there, but they're also running the cafe. And we're looking at other tenants coming into some of the other studios within the building that will help to generate that foundation funding that supports the sustainable business plan. And then on top of that, we have to layer the arts program, and as a housing association, that's not an area of expertise. So this was where it was very important to have an organisation like Chapter involved. Unfortunately, at a key point in the whole process, Chapter underwent some restructuring and they had to withdraw, and so the Housing Association needed to redevelop and redefine the business plan, and we focused more on hire and lettings around participative arts activities, and to cut our teeth to make sure that the business plan is sustainable, and then in the latter part of the first year of operation and the next couple of years begin to develop the skills to develop an artistic program. And that's where we are at the moment. We as a housing association are managing the building, but we're looking to back in discussions with chapter, or looking to engage somebody specific who can work with us, who has the skills to develop the artistic program. So that is important, because in spite of being explicit ourselves about what we wanted to do and what we were capable of and what we felt the building was able to offer in the first year, there's still an expectation from some funders, but more importantly partners and the public, that as soon as the building was open, we would be able to provide an artistic program, and that's something we haven't got in place. So another piece of advice to you is be really, really explicit about how you are able to meet, and if you are not able to meet people's and organisations' expectations, tell them as soon as possible, say it loud, say it clear, and just keep working with them to shape and inform how everything evolves moving forward, because it really, really does change. Once those doors open, once you've got people in there, it's just like your house. If you move into a new home, if you build a house, you don't really know how you're going to use the rooms until you're actually in there. It's exactly the same with our building. Things that are supposed to work don't work, things work differently, and you realise once you've got an activity happening within a particular space, it might not necessarily work as well as it can. So be really flexible, really open, be incredibly patient, and very, very persistent. Some of the other things that I think might be helpful to you is to know that there's support out there. So support in terms of helping to scope and develop your funding applications. The best process we went through, I mean, we had 4 funders, 3 significant funders, but out of all of them, the Heritage Lottery Fund had the most well-developed and clearly articulated requirements, but also, thanks Eskin, I got that, really good guidelines and templates. So even if you're not accessing their funding, see if you can have a look and at those documents to help you. In terms of accessing hard to reach groups and individuals, you've got, as I've mentioned, housing associations in your group. They are a really, really good source of skills and also people. So if you can make contact with them, but also I put some links in the paper that I did for the Institute of Welsh Affairs, and I'll email that to Jo and she can circulate it to you, of other helpful groups and individuals who are able to support you or put you in contact with hard to reach groups. But the housing associations are always looking for partners and looking for opportunities to support their tenants to get engaged in projects and activities that help them develop skills, that help them to shape the communities within which they work in. And I think most of all, I don't want to say too much more. I think my main points for you are find the common language, whether it's across your funders or whether it's across the people who are going to be using your facility. There is help out there in engaging with the communities and hard to reach groups. It's just pointing you in the right direction. I think I'll leave it there and I'll let you use the time to ask me questions. Hope that's helpful.
You want to be our MC?
Thank you, Karen. Any questions for Karen?
If you have them, you need to come to the microphone so they get captured.
Can I?
Yeah, do you want to just pop up? And...
Hi, Karen. It's Dave Evans from Torfaen Council. I was just interested that you talked about the way that you'd engage the community early on. How did you? Are you still doing that through the way you manage the building and any structures you have in terms of engaging people and the tenants in the actual management of the building?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of the tenants and management of the building, the operations manager within the RedHouse that's been rebranded, within the Old Town Hall, has meetings with the individual tenants, so regular planned meetings. And we've had to do a lot of establishment of brand new policies and procedures, induction to the building and the systems. So that's ongoing with the tenants. Then after we got our funding secured, so we employed Jane, who did the consultation prior to getting the funding secured. And then once the funding was secured, we had support from the Heritage Lottery, and we were able to appoint a project development manager. So Chris led a lot on ongoing engagement. So he was out speaking to groups and individuals. There were tours of the site. Then he worked on and secured additional funding to do community-based arts projects. So one of the projects that he led on was Patterns of Merthyr. So that funding enabled us to appoint artistic consultants who went out and worked with the Alzheimer's Society, with the Boys and Girls Club. These are just examples of the diversity. With the Migrant Workers Forum, Polish Community of the Valleys Association, to capture their memories of patterns that influenced them in their life. And then those were interpreted and became the hoardings around the building. So throughout the development process, the community was starting to see how their personal experience was shaping the way in which the building was developed. And that, another example is a film project with young people, and another is the Reflections project, which is predominantly with older people, capturing their stories in voice recordings and photographs. And then moving forward, we're working, an example of continued engagement is workshops that are funded through Heritage Lottery around stained glass. There's a significant amount of stained glass and ceramics in the building. So talking to people who engage in the workshops about the significance of that stained glass and those ceramics, but giving them the opportunity to do stained glass making and do some ceramic work as well. The other one that I wanted to mention to you is work that we're doing with GGAT, the Glamorgan and Gwent Archaeological Trust, on a youth heritage forum and exploring how that will influence what happens in the management of the building, but also engaging young people in the heritage of their community. I've lost sound here. Right, got you back.
Okay, I've just got one quick question, Karen. How key do you think it is in terms of ongoing sustainability that you have an anchor tenant, that Merthyr College has come in to provide that income on over a few years?
Yeah, it is absolutely critical. I don't think we would have been as successful as we were in securing the funds from Welsh Government, Heritage Lottery and Europe if we didn't have that anchor tenant. The agreement to lease that was established demonstrated to the funders the University of South Wales now, universities commitment to this project over a 10-year period, and so it has been the foundation basically that has enabled us to leap off. And if taking forward your projects, you're able to secure something like that, I think it means the world, really does.
Thank you so much, Karen, for beaming in from, I'm not sure where you are. I don't think you are in Merthyr, are you?
No, I'm not in Merthyr, no.
Any more questions? I think that's a wrap then. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Bye.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. That's the morning. Lunch is behind us. We're going to start promptly at 4:45, but we have 45 minutes. Again, during the break,